Hello everyone. Today's poem is 采蘩 by 佚名 or by Anonymous. The second poem in the Shao Wind from the Book of Songs. 国之大者，在祀在戎 In the Zhou dynasty, the most important things for a state, for a country, for the king is, the first thing first is 祀, the ceremony, the pray to the god, to the ancestors. The second, 戎, the wars. Of course, wars between countries is always the most critical things through the history, no matter within China or without China. This poem is talking to the most important things for Zhou people, the ceremony to the ancestors, the ceremony to the god or heaven. 祀. The Zhou dynasty basically is a country composed of land laws. The biggest land laws is the king of Zhou, and literally all the land belongs to him. Anyhow, practically, the land belongs to a lot of the noble persons. So they are the small land laws under the king of Zhou. So the land laws, basically, they behave quite similar. They are of a very, very big family, and the eldest son was always the master of this piece of land. Such rules also applies to the king of Zhou. The eldest son will always inherit the throne from his father. No matter the biggest landlord, the king of Zhou, or the secondary landlord, the lord of the state, or even the much smaller landlord, the landlord under the landlord of the state, they all practice the ceremony to pray for the god, pray for their ancestors. So this poem, actually, the situation applies to all the levels of the landlord. And even in today, in some of the countryside village, there is still some temple, family temples in the village. And the family temple, that's the place for this praying, for this ceremony. So that's sort of the tradition lasted through the Chinese history for 3,000 years. A very important concept of the ancient Chinese is 视死如视生. So they treat the dead, their ancestors, as the people who are still alive. So in this ceremony, when they pray to the god, pray to their ancestors, they not only say the words of praying and sing songs and dancing, they also served a lot of the food, wines for their ancestors and played them on the table in front of their ancestors' panels. So the panel is the 牌位, which is a wood panel carved or written the name of their ancestors' names. So that's the symbolic things of their ancestors. And then after the big ceremony, the food, the wine is shared among the people who take part in the ceremony. So, which means at the very beginning, the food was served to the ancestors, and they have their food and wine in the first place. And after the ceremony, after their ancestors have the wine, have the food, then it's the turn for the people who are still alive to enjoy the food, to enjoy the wine. So that's some sort of the real situations, even in today's China, in some of the villages, countryside. The Zhou people have different level of ceremony. The ceremony by the king, the ceremony by the landlord of the state, or the ceremony by the small landlord. And apparently this poem is talking about a fair, a ceremony in the Shao state. It most probably could be the lord of the Shao state. We don't have too much of the details, what kind of the ceremony and when the ceremony was held in the Shao state. But basically, as far as we know something about the king of Zhou, the ceremony by the king of Zhou, they have some of the fixed ceremony in the 4 seasons. And for the big things, let's see the war or some of the big national issues, they also have special ceremonies for that things or for that affair. This poem is about the ceremony in the Shao state. We have not much of the information today, but we can still treat it as quite similar to the ceremony of the king of Zhou, but much reduced in scope or in the frequency. Now let's look at the poem. The title, 采瘩, 采 collect, 瘩, a type of grass, wormwood. It's a very popular grass in the North China along the Yellow River, even today. And it was told to be the vegetable and also the food served in the ceremony, a very important food served in the ceremony. So from the title, we know it's about the ceremony, and also in the content, it very clearly tells us it's about a ceremony or preparing for that ceremony. 于以采蘩，于沼于沚。于以, so from where we can collect the warm wood to collect the things for the ceremony. 于沼于沚, at the pond. 沼 is a small pond of water. 沚 is a small piece of land in the lake, in the river. The first sentence is a question, and the second sentence is an answer to that question. Where can I collect the grass of warm wood? You can collect the warm wood at the pond, at the small piece of land in the water. So from the pattern of the sentence, we can feel that this is a quite primitive folk song-like. And these poems could be from the very, very ancient time, even before the Zhou dynasty. 予以用之，公侯氏之事. Okay, the second pair of sentence still a question and answer. the folk song like. So where would you use that grass for? 予以 at where and for what you will use that wormwood. The answer is 公侯之事. 公 is a very tricky word. So normally it means the public interest. So in the Zhou dynasty, there are also a lot of things about the public interest, the army, and also the king. The king is the person who represents the public interest. And also in the Zhou dynasty, Gong is a position. So first thing first, he's under the king. And the second, he should be a very, very big landlord. And the third, this is a position for the king, Zhou dynasty. And he takes some responsibility for the whole country, for the whole Zhou dynasty under the king. And the whole is also refers to sort of the position, and also it refers to the landlord. It should be a landlord to be a whole, and whole takes less responsibility compared to the position of Gong. So basically, Gong and Hou are positions, and they are landlord, very big landlord, normally the landlord of a state. And Gong takes the full responsibility for the whole Zhou dynasty, and Hou takes less responsibility for the Zhou dynasty. So the second sentence, 公侯之事, so the thing for the Gong and the Hou. So basically that means the thing for the states or for the country of Zhou. So now we have the first paragraph. So it's composed of two question answers. So let me rephrase it again. So where would you collect the grass of the wormwood? You can go to the pond. You can go to the piece of land in the river. What would you use, or what for, to collect all those wormwood? For the things of the state, for the things for the Gong and Hou. So the second paragraph basically is a repeating of the first paragraph. Remember, all the poems actually is a song in the book of songs. It's all the songs. So the repeating is quite popular in the songs, especially in those ancient songs. A lot of the pieces repeatings. But there's a little bit difference. 于以采蘩于涧之中. Jian refers to the small river in the valley between mountains. So in the second paragraph, the first pair of sentences means, where would you go to collect the grass of wormwood? I would go to the valley in the small river, along the small river. Where would you use it? 予以用之, 公侯之功. So 公 here actually very, very clearly tell us this is for the ceremony. So in the ancient time, in the Zhou dynasty, Gong refers to the temple where the ceremony would be held, and the panel carved with the name of their ancestors, they are all always placed in that temple. So this is a very special place, and that's the place the ceremony was held. So far it's very clear from the grass name, wormwood, and from the place clearly indicated, gong, the temple of the ceremony. And also it implies some bit, the thing is for the states, the ceremony is for the states, the ceremony is for the gong and hou. The preparation for the ceremony not only by the men, by the lord, but also by the women, the noble women. So here, everything described above actually is describing the noble woman who was collecting the grass. Though in the ancient time, the farming, the hunting is by men, the collecting and the sewing would always by the woman. So don't make it wrong. This poem, everything is about women, and we can also feel it in the third paragraph. 碧之彤彤，夙夜在公。B normally was read as bei, but here it would read as B. So it's a tool to calm the hair, and also it could be used as a verb. So here it was used as a verb to comb the hair. So to comb your hair very respectfully. 夙夜在公，夙 morning, 夜 night. So the day and night, I'm on the public interest. I'm on the duty. So here, 公 refers to the public interest or refers to the duty because the ceremony was always about the public interest, and the ancestor resemble the public interest. So with the same ancestors, so the people in a big family. So the big family in the Zhou dynasty could be hundreds of people, could be thousands of people. So that's not like today's very, very small families. The family is a very big family. So the hundreds of people, the thousands of people, they share the same interest. And they also was educated and also was trained and also received the public interest through the ceremony. So the ceremony actually is a practice to help them to have their common ground, have their common interest, have the same value among the group of people, among the big family. So that's the basic, fundamental importance of the ceremony. So in the third paragraph, the first pair of sentences actually describe the very vivid picture when the woman was preparing for the ceremony, and also they very carefully make up themselves to show the respect to the ancestors, to the ceremony. They comb their hairs very carefully, gently, and makes it very beautiful. And they doing their duty to prepare the ceremony days and night. 避之其其，薄言还归。避之 so comb their long hairs. 其其 Qi means very, very thick hair and very, very beautiful hairs. So they comb their thick and beautiful hair very carefully and gently, and they don't mean to go back home. 薄言还归 还归 means go home, go to their own home. 伯言 means they don't mean to go back home, because they are preparing for the ceremony in the temples, days and nights. So they stayed in that temple, and they don't mean to go back home, which shows they're respectful for this ceremony. And this also shows how seriously the Zhou people took this ceremony. Just imagine, all those women are noble women, and they could be the wife of the lord of the state. They could be even the wife or the queen of the king of Zhou, and they stayed days and nights in the temple to prepare for this ceremony. And just one wild imagination, the local dialect in the Zhou state or the Shao state, we have a saying today, 保说. 保 means do not. So this sound is quite similar to the word 伯言. 保, and sometimes 伯 was read as 保 in the modern Mandarins. So if we use the local dialect sound to interpret this sentence, 保言还归, though you never say, you won't say going home. So that's also make a very, very, very good explanation to this poem. So at the first glance, this poem looks simple in the first two paragraphs, but a little conflicted in the third paragraph. But as far as you know, it's about a ceremony of the Zhou people, and the ceremony was the most critical, most important things for the Zhou people. You can have a much better understanding for this poem. And also, the ceremony is for the god, for the ancestors. The two was sitting in parallel in that temple. So before the Zhou dynasty, the Chinese always pray to the god, to the sky. And since Zhou dynasty, the Zhou people put their ancestors in the temple in parallel with the god. So that make the fundamental Chinese culture and the social rules fundamentally changed. So which was the family values. The family was the core value for every Chinese, and the value was represented and enhanced by praying to the same ancestors, because you have the same blood. That's the core value for an average Chinese, for a king, for a lord of the Shao states. From the writings, we can feel this poem is quite primitive by the question and answer sentence through the poem. And in the reality, in the Zhou dynasty, it's a song. It's most probably could be a duet, the songs by two group of people singing to each other. Okay, that's for today. Bye-bye.